Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to yet another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo! That sounded weird.
I wanted to change it up. I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're back yet again with some more topics to share with you folks.
Indeed we are. I'm kind of excited about this episode because you're covering something that I typically cover, and I'm taking a topic on that I took on like 100 episodes ago.
Really?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit fun. So, Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering rabbits.
So, okay, she has a story about how she arrived at her topic, which I'm sure we'll get to at the beginning, so I won't spoil that. I'm going to be recovering or going back to the well of coincidence. The first time I did it, there was some really, really interesting stuff in there, and I decided that I was going to go ahead and dive back into it. It's been in my, waiting for topics for, honestly, for almost 100 episodes, so I figured I'd just dive back into those, and I found some new stuff, so I'm pretty excited, but I think you're going to be the one that goes first this episode, if I'm not mistaken, so I'll just turn it over to you.
All right, so this week I was really reluctant to steal Adam's usual episode type thing, because he's the one that always covers Superstitions, but it's been sitting on my mind for a while, and I just felt like I needed to do it. I don't know why. I was literally laying in bed last night, and I was like, man, I gotta think of something that I really want to do this week, and I was like, Superstitions. It just popped into my head, and I was like, I gotta do it.
What's funny, too, is you had mentioned you wanted to cover something with animals, also.
Yes, I did want to cover something with animals, and I was thinking, like, dog spirits or something like that, and it kind of worked out that it just came up, so I was really, really excited, and I just love Superstitions. I think they're fun, and I think they're interesting, and they all have these backstories to them. And all over the world, everybody has their own different histories, legends, things like that. And different cultures do these things like it's ingrained in them, you know? And it's just caught on over time, and these things just become tradition. And I just think it's really cool. And we all do these weird things because we feel like it's lucky or unlucky.
Right. It was funny, too, because as she was doing her research, she just started talking about the fact that there was so much information on rabbits in particular. And I was like, I have a feeling this is going to become Robin's Rabbit episode.
Yep.
So I'm kind of excited to hear what you got.
Yeah, this particular thing I'm going to cover is rabbits. There was a surprising amount of different type of superstitions out there on them. And it went from being like a menagerie of different stories to this one thing. And I was just so excited. Rabbits are cute. I fucking love them.
You've had rabbits before, too, right?
I have had rabbits before, yeah.
I know, but what franchise did you name your rabbit after?
My first rabbit I named Edward, and he was the cutest little white rabbit.
After Twilight Edward. Did he sparkle in the sun?
No, but he liked to hide among all the other stuffed animals.
That's pretty adorable.
So you'd look at this row of stuffed animals, and then you'd see a rabbit butt sticking out. It was really cute. Anyway, okay. So, the idea of rabbits having been associated with luck has been in circulation for centuries. It is not one of the oldest, obviously, legends and things out there, but it has been around for a while, and that's both a good and bad thing. They're cute, they're fluffy, they're adorable to some people.
They're delicious.
I've never eaten
I haven't
rabbit.
either. I'm just assuming.
Oh, okay. But they do bite, just saying.
Don't they also chew cords?
They definitely chew cords. I bought an iPhone and had just plugged it in because it tells you to plug your iPhone in while you're setting it up and do all this stuff. And all of a sudden, it stops charging. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I looked down and my rabbit's sitting there and the cord is just chopped in half. And I was like, what the fuck?
It's like, you monster.
Oh my God. But even my TV remotes and stuff like that, they didn't have any buttons on the top of them. He chewed all the buttons off of them.
Wow.
But he was cute. I don't know. Anyway, certain tarot card decks have the pulling of the rabbit as attributed to fear. You know, when you pull the rabbit card, it means fear. It's telling you to stop talking or thinking about what it is that you're worried about or what you're afraid of. And you gotta stop thinking about what ifs and horrible things that are going to happen because it's a possible sign that those hardships coming that you can't control or whatever, you just gotta stop thinking about it, and if you keep dwelling on it, you're gonna make it happen type thing. So that's interesting, because I had no idea that the rabbit was even a card that you could pull in tarot cards. You know, you always see all these cards that mean death in TV shows. And
right. But like how the Grim Reaper is supposed to not necessarily mean death or whatever. Like, I think there's a death card, but it doesn't mean death. I am not, boned up on my tarot card reading or anything.
I've never done tarot card readings. I've never had a friend who was like, hey, do you want me to do one for you? They kind of scare me a little bit because you've had stories where it's like, they're real. Tarot cards are real. You know what I mean? So I'm just like...
Yeah, stories where it's like the thing that was read was something that was not known, you know? But the cards just sort of like unveiled this story and it wound up becoming like more of questions like, did this happen? And did this happen? Like, did so-and-so die? And it's like, yep, that sure did happen. We haven't told anyone yet.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So I haven't tried it yet. So some say when you dream of rabbits, it's a good thing. And it means that something good might happen in your life, while others say that it reflects a person's insecurities and fears and weaknesses, which is so interesting to me because I'm so used to rabbits being good luck, and...
So I know rabbits' feet are supposed to be good luck, but it's like, do you have to remove it from the rabbit for it to become good luck?
We'll get into rabbits' feet. Okay,
gotcha.
I'm just talking about rabbits in general.
I'll pump my brakes.
And I guess it makes sense when you think about the fact that rabbits are supposedly timid creatures and things like that. And they are... I just watched Beastars. Have you seen that anime?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wait, yeah, I've been watching in the background with you.
Yeah, it's about that little white rabbit and the big
wolf. She's a Skankosaurus Rex, right?
And supposedly her race, like the rabbit that she is like the weakest animal in this animal kingdom world that they have going on.
It's like Zootopia anime.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I don't know. I don't know if I like it or I hate it. I haven't decided yet. But, so this idea that dreaming of rabbits is just your fears and weaknesses is not so far-fetched. And like in your dream, if you feel uneasy, then the rabbit is like your anxiety. And it just makes me kind of feel bad for rabbits because they seem like a catch-all for all these things. Like
they're either good luck or bad luck.
Yeah, it's so strange, but...
I always heard that if you dream of rabbits, it means you're about to shit your pants.
Really?
That might just be me. No. I'm just making one up and tossing it out there. Who knows if it'll catch on? In 100 years... it's going to be like the number one superstition about rabbits.
Okay.
It'll catch on. So like hashtag rabbit dreams make you shit your pants. There you go.
So stupid. These poor things also get a bad rep on ships apparently too. And there's a saying that bad luck is abound with a hair around. I just made that little rhyme ditty up. But
you actually made that up?
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
It's way better than my hashtag about shitting your pants.
So if you do have any hair like a rabbit, on board, especially a dead one, you don't want that anywhere near your ship. You don't want it anywhere near you when you're about to go set sail on the ocean. You never want to go to sea with any part of a rabbit, like not even a rabbit foot. Okay?
I was going to say, what about a rabbit's foot?
You never want to. If a fisherman finds a rabbit or a hare or whatever in a net, they'd much rather burn it than like set off to sea with it, Wow. It's just like, no. Even saying the word rabbit while out at sea is said to bring bad luck because the devil might disguise himself as a rabbit. And a lot of seafarers won't even say church, pig, fox, or cat. That's just like...
Are those all saline cursed words?
Probably. They don't want to bring bad luck onto them. And I think a lot of sailors are superstitious.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So it totally makes sense that there are things that it's just like you do not do on a ship or a boat.
I have a story about two sailors, in fact.
Really?
Yeah, not exactly superstitious, but I'm sure people were superstitious as it involved them. But yeah, I'll let you keep going. Sorry.
Interesting. All
Quick preview.
So, the rabbit's foot, right? I think there was actually an episode of Supernatural with the rabbit's foot. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one.
Where it was like a really, really lucky rabbit's foot if you had it on you. And then as soon as you lost it...
You died, right?
It was like the worst luck in the entire world.
Wasn't the trickster behind all of it, too?
I don't know. I'm sure Joe will tell us later.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much about that, but like the trickster is one of my favorite characters, and then they decided, like, you can always tell when Supernatural got new writers, because it's like, oh, it's a trickster, and then they got new writers, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's actually Loki. And then they get new writers. It's like, oh, the same character is actually Gabriel. And I was just like, holy shit, figure your stuff out. Like, a character cannot keep changing its origin just because you have new fucking writers.
You know, they do what they want. They want what they want.
Clearly, they seriously did.
So some think it's actually bad to rely on an object in hoping that it brings you good luck. Like, you shouldn't put all your faith in this one item trying to hold off all the bad luck. Like, maybe by holding onto it with that intention, again, it brings about that bad luck that you're so afraid of.
It's like it can't quite get to you, so it's just like accumulating and waiting for the rabbit's foot to go away.
Like that episode of Supernatural, where it's like you hold on to it, you have all the luck in the world, and as soon as it's gone, it's like, fuck you, buddy.
Or fuck you, bunny. Get it? That was a horrible joke. I'm leaving it in there so everyone can experience my shame.
Fear. Okay, so fear does revolve around the rabbit a lot, apparently, and I had no idea about any of that. That being said, these rabbit feet also have a history of being used for healing, and this particular thing blew my mind and made me so confused, but someone thought that it was good for rheumatism. Like, it could heal your rheumatism.
Like arthritis?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why, but yeah. Who knows? Maybe it does work. Rub it against yourself. It sounded so weird. Okay. Some even thought by rubbing a rabbit's foot on a newborn baby's face, it would ward off evil spirits.
Interesting. I thought it was going to make the kid super fast when he got older.
From what I've learned, just because you're fast doesn't mean you finish first.
What? Oh.
The tortoise and the hare.
I was going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, no. It applies.
This little tradition or idea with the baby's face is something that seems to stem from the practice of witchcraft, at least from certain sources that I read. It's like a lot of these things where they use an item to ward off evil or something like that stems from some type of practicing magics of some sort. It's even said that some rabbits are witches in disguise.
Interesting.
Which kind of makes sense with the sailors thinking the devil's in disguise as rabbits and things like that. But
what's that called when you can transform? Polyamorous? That's a good joke.
Polymorphs?
I'm proud of that joke.
What are
It's polymorph, yeah.
Okay. I fucking hate you. Oh my god, that's such a horrible joke.
Polyamorous makes sense along with rabbits, too, because rabbits are also known for boning.
Yep. Apparently, there are groups of people that don't own rabbits due to these negative thoughts and beliefs that it's just like evil in disguise, you know what I mean? There are also things that I read where black rabbits are bad luck, white rabbits are good luck. I was just like, that's so
racist as fuck.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? It's like the black cats thing, though. People are like, black cats are unlucky, but we love our black cat.
Our cat is amazing. I will fight anyone who says otherwise.
Well, she's amazing to us, not amazing to other people.
She's not amazing to people who don't think she's amazing.
So, those that do believe in the luck of the foot seem to have a ritual with their feet, their rabbit's feet.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it has to go into a specific pocket, like left foot goes into the right pocket and right foot goes into the left pocket.
Keychain has to be hanging out, but the rabbit's foot has to be completely submerged in the pocket.
It's so weird.
That sort of weird shit, yeah.
I had no idea how...
That's a custom one, by the way. That's not like an official rule. I remember some kid in high school had one.
It's more commonly attached to whatever it is that you carry around with you everywhere. One website was like, if you have a phone case, put it on your phone case. I was like, that's interesting.
You're going to text back all the time. You'll never be left on red.
Oh my god. That's such a good one. That'd be so... Babe, market it.
That's a 2020 superstition I just created.
Oh my god. And then some people are like, you stroke it 3 or 4 times before you go into any event that it is that you want that luck for, whether it be like a sports event, music event, you have to make a speech, you have to do X, Y, Z. Just rub it a bunch before you... No! God!
It just sounded funny. I didn't say anything.
You touch the rabbit's foot a few times, and...
You stroke the rabbit's foot a few times before your event. I get it.
Got it. Okay, I just was trying to walk around this
Sexual innuendo of masturbation. I know.
Oh my god. Anyway, the thing with rabbit's feet are that it's supposedly unlucky to actually kill a rabbit. And it makes me really wonder where or how people got those feet. Like the manufacturers for them. Like, do they raise the rabbits and then cut all their feet off and then sell the meat, you know?
They buy them little bunny shoes and then just have them put it on.
God, what?
Yeah, they take the foot off and they put the bunny shoe on.
Oh, God, no.
Then they can run faster and jump higher.
Oh my God, I hate you. Just put batteries on them.
I saw this documentary about this bunny who played basketball called Space Jam, and he did pretty goddamn well. That's all I'm saying.
I love Space Jam. It's such a good movie. But, all right, so it just made me really curious, and I actually didn't research into that avenue very much because I was like, I don't want to see really sad pictures, I love rabbits. I love animals in general, and I really don't want to see that. So, a 1908 British account reported that rabbit feet imported from America were being advertised as having been, quote, the left hind foot of a rabbit killed in a country churchyard at midnight during the dark moon on Friday the 13th of the month by a cross-eyed, left-handed, red-headed, bow-legged, and I hate that I have to say this because it's horrible, but Negro riding a white horse.
What the fuck is... Okay, there's just so much bizarre shit about that.
It's fucked up advertising, and it's a sign of how shitty times were and still are. Because there are people out there that are like, I don't see what's wrong with that. Well,
this was 1908, so obviously it was a different mindset back then. And hopefully in 2020, if someone came across that, it would be like, this shit will not stand. But holy shit.
When I read that, I was like, what the fuck? And this is just to advertise a lucky rabbit's foot. Imagine having that on a poster.
Right.
There was like a newspaper or something that had that ad in it. Ugh, I fucking hate people. Anyway, it is not an exact science as to how these feet are harvested. What seems to be a common theme is that these rabbits' feet are harvested during dark times, like in that ad that was saying like Friday the 13th, or during a dark moon, or just these creepy things are related to it, or points in time where there's just some unlucky connotation to it, No one really knows for sure whether these marketing schemes were a joke or just some racist pieces of shit being racist pieces of shit. So it kind of is just this thing that's up in the air that no one really knows for sure because it's so long ago, and I'm sure they didn't actually write down this, like, this is where rabbit's feet come from kind of thing.
Right. They had bad copywriters back then. That's what we know for sure.
There was a couple sources that I read that noted that the concept of a lucky rabbit's foot may stem from the European good luck charm called the Hand of Glory. And when I started reading up on that, I was like, this is going to have its own thing later on.
She got really excited about that part.
The Hand of Glory is a trip. So the Hand of Glory is a hand cut from a hanged man. And at times in medieval Europe, what they would do is they would just leave the bodies of these hanged men out in public to warn others against committing crimes. But what they actually did was they allowed these people to kind of butcher up the bodies. And so they'd cut off their hands, usually the left one, and these hands would then get pickled and dried. Yum.
Is this where like the monkey's paw legend came from too?
It's probably along the same lines, because I know with the monkey paw, you also make a candle out of it. So the hand of, right?
No, I don't know, actually. I mean, I know the monkey's paw from pop culture, and like what I know of the monkey's paw is it curls its fingers as you make your wishes.
I thought each finger is a candle.
Not the ones that I've seen in at least the Treehouse of Horror episode that I'm remembering
okay.
right now.
Okay, anyway, so the Hand of Glory gets turned into a candle. But I'll probably cover this item and then a whole bunch of items that have that same kind of theme, like the monkey's paw type thing, in a future episode. We'll
call it our handy episode.
Oh, that'd be so cute. Anyway, that would be a cute episode. I like that title. Anyway, the worse the criminal that the hand came from, the more powerful the charm.
Interesting.
So A man named Bill Ellis wrote that, like the hand of glory, rabbits' feet were sometimes considered lucky because of their association with the body of a criminal. The more wicked the person who died, the better the charm's effect that was related to those remains. According to Newbell Niles Puckett, a 20th century folklorist, President Grover Cleveland was said to have received the foot of a rabbit killed on the grave of Jesse James, who was a 19th century outlaw, when Cleveland was running for presidency in 1884.
Wow, that's super interesting.
That I was like, that's so creepy.
It's weird to try and imbue the rabbit's foot with power based off of who or where or what is killing it, you know? It's just very odd to me that it's like part of the marketing of each rabbit's foot. It's like, this rabbit was killed and the foot was harvested on the grave of that one outlaw guy.
Yeah, it's just such a strange thing. And that, again, I feel like that stems back to the whole idea of it being related to some type of magics or witchcraft or things like that, because
how more
ritualistic.
The more powerful the ritual, the more powerful the product.
Right. Rabbits are also said to be signs of fertility, so there's that, which totally makes sense because yes, they like to bone a lot. They breed like crazy, as seen in Zootopia.
Is there like a sex scene in Zootopia that I missed?
In
Are
Zootopia,
you getting Zootopia and this Beast anime mixed up?
No, in Zootopia at the burrow, there's a sign for population.
Oh, and it keeps going up.
And it keeps going up and up and up and up.
Gotcha.
Anyway, rabbits are also a symbol for springtime and renewal. So it's not too far to think that they could mean good things too. So there's a lot of strange things with rabbits.
Because of the fertility and the renewal in the spring, that's how they became associated with Easter, right?
Easter
because
actually...
it was a pagan holiday that celebrated fertility and rebirth.
So it has nothing to do with the resurrection of Jesus or anything like that.
I mean, it does. It's just like they overlap the two things, so that the symbols from the pagan holiday would overlap with tradition of the Christian holiday. So like they merge like eggs and bunnies with like... Also, Jesus died and came back, and you're like, how does this connect? I don't fucking get it.
It's really, the whole, I'm not going to get into Easter, because that's a whole different thing.
That is a whole different thing.
But...
It's a whole different podcast called Religious-ish, which we're not on.
We're not on. In Old China and Scandinavian mythology, they are associated with powerful deities and good fortune. And if a rabbit crosses your path, which I had no idea was a thing... What?
I was just
You're
thinking
smirking.
I was just thinking about that game Bravely Default. Do you remember that game?
Yes.
I don't know why it popped into my head. I feel like there was something in there with rabbits, but I don't know. And then it made me... I was trying to think of like, what was in Bravely Default? It's a game for the Nintendo 3DS. And you can customize like your own attack.
You have your little party and...
Yeah.
There's no animals.
The reason I laughed is because you can customize your own attack in that game. And anytime you street pass someone and they get your street pass, it's your character performing your attack that they can use once... Like, just once, to like, in a boss battle or whatever, and you can have your own catchphrase. And my catchphrase was, suck my balls!
Oh, God. I don't know how Nintendo didn't catch that, okay? I'm just
it filtered out everything, but it did not filter out suck, my, or balls, or that order of them. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I thought rabbits connected to that, but there you go.
I don't even know. Okay. Anyway, you're so weird. If a rabbit crosses your path, it seems to depend on which part of the world that you're in, but it's mostly seen as a lucky thing. So, possibly positive, depends on how you take it. If you believe in it, it could be a type of spiritual sign to help you with some sort of decision making that you're going through at the time. Maybe a sign of love, or if you're thinking about having kids or something like that. There are so many interpretations of that as well, but you go down this huge spiritual hole, and I was just like, I can't go down that deep.
Right, I totally understand. You don't want to get like controversial or offending anyone's beliefs.
Yes. So it's said that from right to left, if it crosses you from right to left, it's a sign of fertility, family, motherhood type things. From left to right, it's like money, work, prosperity, stuff like that. All I've ever seen is rabbits running away from me, so they never cross my path, but it's just like, you can't catch me, because I'm just like, hey buddy, come here, and they're like, no. They go and hide, and I'm just like...
I remember being a kid, and we tried to catch a little baby bunny, and it was so damn fast, and we chased it for like hours. And finally, like, we caught it in this cardboard box, and I was so happy. And I went to take it home and show my mom, like, hey, Mom, like, I caught a bunny. And we took it home, and my mom looked down at it, and she thought she saw fleas on it. And she was like, get that the fuck away from my house. And I was like, but we caught it. And, like, my mom screamed at a pitch I'd never heard her scream to that point in my life. And I just ran. I was just like, okay, fuck.
Oh, my God. That's so freaking funny. But yeah, so I don't know if it's a good thing that they keep running away from me. Maybe they just don't like me. Who knows? So to finish out my topic on a more uplifting note, aside from, hanged men and things like that, is this really, really, really common tradition of people having to say the words rabbit, rabbit. Like the first thing you say, the first thing that ever comes out of your mouth on the first of every month.
What if you forget, though? Are you just screwed for the whole month?
So we all want a bit of good luck in our lives, and it doesn't hurt to do something to give yourself a little extra. And you wake up, and first thing in the morning, before you say anything else, you gotta say rabbit, rabbit. And it just makes me think of a frog, ribbit, ribbit.
Ribbit, ribbit.
It's something that would be so difficult for me because my brain just doesn't work in the morning or when I first wake up at all. And it doesn't work when I'm frustrated or stressed or anything like that. It just doesn't work half the time. Okay.
Or tired, yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why I would never remember to have that particular phrase be the first thing I say in the morning. And
on the first of every month.
On the first of every... I can barely remember what day of the week it is.
It's true.
If you can actually manage to remember this and pull it off, it's said that you'll have good luck for the rest of the month. And I think the whole world needs to try this next month. It wouldn't hurt. We could all use a little luck.
June 1st rabbit rabbit. I'll set an alarm on my phone. Hang on. Where's my phone? We're going to see if Google can actually get this done. Here we go. Okay, Google. Set an alarm for May 31st that says rabbit rabbit.
Sorry, I can't set alarms on your phone more than 24 hours before they're supposed to go off.
Oh, shit, yeah, because June 1st is like 5 days away.
That doesn't change the fact that was just a total failure in case you Google.
Anyway, if you forget to say this first thing in the morning, you can cover your bases and say Tibar Tibar, which is rabbit rabbit backwards before you go to bed at the end of the night.
You're kidding me.
So
there's a clause in it for people who accidentally forgot?
I guess so. I just thought it was so funny. One of the earliest, if not the earliest references to this tradition or ritual is in a 1909 issue of the British Journal called Notes and Queries, in which parents observed their children saying rabbits on the first of every single month for good luck. And there are different iterations of this particular superstition, of course. In an article from 1920, it said that in Great Britain, so a lot of these things come from the UK, with local variants, you say rabbits 3 times before going to sleep on the last day of the month, and then you say hares, which is another word for rabbits, the next morning.
I feel like there's so many ways I can fuck this up.
There's just a lot of different iterations. In 1953, an article was published stating that on the first day of the month, you shout white rabbit, and at night before bed, you shout black rabbit. It's just, there's so many different ones.
There's so many things I need to chant before bed now.
So what's even better is have a streak for every month of the year, and you'll just have a super duper lucky year.
We should just turn this into an app.
Someone should run an experiment and see which version brings them more luck. I think that'd be really funny and really cute, unless you have a really bad month, and then that's just shitty.
And then Robin brought that upon you.
I might have to make an effort to remember to say it in a few days, since it is going to be June 1st.
But which one are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with the saying rabbit, rabbit twice on the first of the month. I think that's...
In the morning, the first words you speak?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do... What is it, white rabbit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this is dumb.
Supposedly, big names like Sarah Jessica Parker, and I cannot believe that I'm saying this in the same sentence as her, but President Franklin Delano Roosevelt have followed the rabbit-rabbit tradition and are said to have carried around a rabbit's foot for good luck. It was published that FDR, quote, he would not think of omitting the utterance on any account, end
Wow.
quote, which is so cute to me. Kind of cool, other than the barbaric thought of carrying around a piece of animal, but neat to see someone like FDR following a tradition like this that just seems so unorthodox, I guess.
Outlandish almost.
But it's cool to see he was superstitious. And it's so interesting that so many people out there are superstitious, like
right.
athletes and things like that. Grover Cleveland's Jesse James piece just does not seem as cool or cute. You know, it's just not as cute as FDR carrying one around. But who knows what body that his was cut over, you know?
Yeah, you have no idea. You have no idea how it was created.
It's morbid but true. His rabbit's foot, FDR's, is actually in a museum right now.
Really?
Yeah. I thought that was really cute.
I feel like I should steal it. Like National Treasure 3, I'm stealing FDR's lucky rabbit's foot.
Oh my god, that would be cute. Anyway, yeah, so that's just a little bit of information on the superstition of rabbits.
Right on. That was good shit. That was really good shit.
I thought it was really fun.
That was a hopping topic, Robin.
Thank you.
Really
I got it. It was a rabbit joke.
Yes, it was. So, right on.
And before we go into the next topic, we're going to take a short break for some ads.
Indeed. Boop, 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 boop. That was Power Rangers. Whoops. And we're back. So this week I knew that I wanted to revisit this topic. I actually have been thinking about this a lot lately. Like all the different things in life that sort of nudge you one way or the other, and how you never seem to know which ones of them are insignificant and which ones of those are going to be, you know, important, impactful, that are going to change your life.
Butterfly effects?
Yeah, exactly. Sincerely. And you never know when something is going to become like outlandish or repeated to the point where people don't believe it happened. And sometimes things happen that are simply so bizarre that people just find them hard to believe. Like, I remember in 6th grade, like between 5th and 6th grade, we took this vacation. We were in Florida and we went and saw Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is just this big building where you can walk through and see all these oddities and bizarre records and like historical things that are like crazy, you know? And there was a bunch of different stuff that I remembered, like some guy who could turn his head all the way around, or some guy who could swallow a lemon whole, or like the tallest man in the world, you know, pictures of the tallest man that ever lived, stuff like that. And, you know, Ripley's Believe It or Not is famous for stuff like that, and it's well known. And then I came back from vacation, and I started 6th grade, and I was in gym class, and like, there were 3 kids around me. We sat in lines, and we were like 6 feet apart. It was social distancing even back then. And like, I was 5th, and we sat in lines of 4. So there was this girl, and then like a girl behind her, and then 2 people that were too far away to talk to, and then me, and like 6 feet to the left, but lined up like right with her, and then someone behind me. So we had like a little like square that we would talk to right before gym class started, and we were all talking about like our summers, and I brought up Ripley's Believe It or Not, and I was like, hey, I saw this crazy shit, and she was like, I think you're a liar. And she just straight up to my face called me a liar, and then ran around gym class telling people that I lie. And I was just like, what the fuck is this little bitch's problem?
Did you trip that bitch?
No, I was just like, I'll never fucking talk to that girl again. And I'm pretty sure she's probably in jail somewhere now, because you don't do that to kids. Stupid bitch. Anyways, clearly it still bothers me. But sometimes like such bizarre and crazy things happen, and we document them. Probably part of the reason why I always want to document stuff is childhood trauma where no one ever believed me. So, I present to you... And now we
have a podcast about all this weird shit.
Yeah, that I try and document. So, I present to you, dear listener, coincidence number 2. So, if you recall, I originally covered coincidence in episode 44 of the show, which is almost 100 episodes ago.
We've been doing this for a long time.
I think it's 85, 86 episodes ago. It's a while ago, so... I actually had to look back at my script just to make sure I didn't overlap with any of those crazy coincidences I covered back then. Also, while checking my old script, I realized that I should probably reiterate a joke, or more of a sentiment that I shared the first time around, which is that Drop Dead Fred is a horrible movie and I hate it.
Oh my god.
It was a longer bit the first time, but I just wanted to touch on that briefly. Fuck that movie.
Oh, okay.
It really is
Never
hard.
Seen it, so.
Just don't. It really is hard to see something as a coincidence nowadays in the digital age. I sincerely feel like that. Like the example I gave last time is how, as a kid, I'd think or even say out loud something about a movie I hadn't seen in a while, And then the next time I turned on the TV and the TV like was black for like 10 seconds, then all of a sudden you'd have picture, you know? It would pop on and boom, there was the movie I was talking about earlier that day. Obviously, I didn't influence the channel's programmers to play that movie. It was simply just a coincidence. But in 2020, with stuff like Alexa or Google Home or everyone's cell phone being capable of, if not actively always listening to every word being said, it's hard to chalk a lot of things up to coincidence, you know?
Yeah.
Like you talk about something and 5 minutes later you're scrolling through Facebook on your phone and there's an ad for that thing you were talking about, you know? It's just something where you don't think coincidence anymore. You think, I'm being listened to.
Yeah. Oh, there's an article in the most recent Reader's Digest, I think. On the cover, it just says how the internet is listening to you.
Yeah, and it's something that's real. That's not to say that coincidences don't happen anymore. When it happened in the past, it was a little bit more obvious because there was less doubt. And the doubt came from when people took a coincidence and said that there was something supernatural or, I don't know, spiritual in nature happening, where you attach more meaning to it than this bizarre stuff happened, but bizarre stuff still happened. So it's less likely nowadays that we're going to do that because we basically blame everything on our metadata being collected. So let's just look at some coincidences that happened before all these devices started eavesdropping on our lives. And I'm going to start out with a feel-good one. So we're not going to go in chronological order here. We're going to start in 2001. So in 2001, there was a 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton. Laura spelled the traditional way, Buxton, B-U-X-T-O-N. She did a little experiment, and it was one that I actually did as a kid also. She wrote, "Please return to Laura Buxton," and then her address on the side of a balloon, and then she let it go so the wind could take it wherever it may fall.
Okay, so what kind of balloon was it? Because if it's a latex balloon, wouldn't it just shrink up and then you can't read anything on the side of that balloon?
It just depends on how long it floats and where it comes down at. So it's a risky experiment. When I did it as a kid, it was a bunch of kids. We did it as a class. I think it was first grade, and we didn't actually write it on the side of the balloon. We wrote it on a note card, did a single hole punch in the note card, tied the string to it, and then tied that to the balloon so it could carry it further away.
You know what's funny is I just read an article today that was like, those balloons that you're carelessly putting into the air are killing animals.
And what was funny is when I was in first grade and we were going to do it, they let us know, like, we are aware that there's a risk that this could land somewhere and be eaten by an animal, like, but we're hoping that doesn't happen. So,
it's so
anyways,
shitty. Like, we know this is probably
we know it's risky, but we're going to do it anyways. So I did the experiment, my whole first grade class. We used our school address rather than our home address because we were going to avoid getting fucking murdered. Jesus, Laura, playing reckless with these social experiments, just saying. Anyways, I never heard anything back. No one else in my class ever heard anything back. Laura did, though. So the balloon traveled 140 miles away to land in the yard of and be discovered by a 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton. Laura spelled the traditional way, Buxton spelled B-U-X-T-O-N.
Herself?
And no, I did not get that name mixed up. It was another girl with the same name who wound up recovering the balloon.
That's bullshit.
It's true. It's documented. It was the same age as well, which is creepy. She was also 10 years old. And they contacted the family and said, like, hey, we found the balloon. Do you want to meet up? And they realized that the daughters had the same last name and how weird it was, so they wound up meeting up.
They were separated at birth.
Several uncanny coincidences were discovered upon meeting. One is that they looked alike. Two is that they dressed alike. They also both had a dog. Both had a dog that was a chocolate lab, and those chocolate labs were both 3 years old. They both had a rabbit. They both had a gray rabbit, specifically. They also both had guinea pigs as an additional pet, because they just had so many fucking pets, apparently. They also both, without coordinating this, happened to bring their pet guinea pigs along for the meeting.
Wouldn't you want to,
So when they
though?
showed up, they were both carrying guinea pigs that neither expected the other to see.
That's cute. But as a 10-year-old girl, you're like, you want to see my guinea pig? You know?
Yeah, exactly. But they both performed all these actions identical. So that's really weird that they're named the same. They had the same kind of pets, like almost identical. They behaved the same way. They looked the same. They dressed the same. So pretty fucking weird. I bet those parents went right back to that baby processing plant and demanded a refund. Because that's where babies come from. We all know that. There's no storks. It's baby factories. And I mean, they're all supposed to be unique, and instead they gave them clones. That's really annoying. There's got to be a full refund for that. There's some
separated
policy
at
for
birth.
sure.
Some babies got mixed up. It's got to be.
It's just weird that they have the same last name. You know, even if they're separated at birth and they're identical twins, yet they still wound up with the same last name.
Little do they know the parents were like siblings.
Oh no, this is getting weird now. All right, we're gonna move out of this one, but it's still cute to think that they let go of that balloon and then it wound up landing in the yard of someone with the same name. So here's one that I found pretty interesting, and it was a different time, so it kind of makes sense, but realistically, when we start going through this, you're going to be like, yeah, I don't think there's anyone else that had this happen to them. Oh, wait, there is, because this story started out with one person, as listed by all the fucking lists that you can find on, like, bizarre coincidences on Google, and it wound up with two when I started doing deeper research, and I realized the one that's getting the most credit isn't even the one that had the most bizarre coincidences happen. You're probably like, Adam, what are you talking about? Shut up, dear listener. I'm going to tell you. So, a woman named Violet Jessup started as the main character in this small story I'm about to tell you, but very quickly I learned of the second one. And this second person was by her side through her ordeals. Not literally, but kind of. So Violet Jessup and a man named Arthur John Priest started crossing paths in 1911. They were both aboard a British ocean liner known as the RMS Olympic. It's an enormous vessel. It had 4 smokestacks. The pictures of it look very similar to the Titanic. It was created by the same company that created the Titanic and owned by the same like ocean lining company as the Titanic. Violet was a stewardess and a nurse, while Arthur was a stoker. Now, a stoker is someone who is in the engine room, typically feeding the engines with coal.
Okay.
So he had a pretty rough fucking job, you know? The RMS Olympic had an incident on September 20th, 1911. The Olympic made a big left turn in this strait between England and one of the islands off the coast of England, but there was another ship on their left. The HMS Hawk was that ship, which had its bow designed to sink ships by ramming it. So as this giant ship starts turning in front of the Hawk, it couldn't adjust in time, and sure enough, it rammed right into the side of the Olympic. It gouged open 2 massive holes on the left side of the Olympic, one that was above the waterline and one that was below. There was significant damage to both ships, but neither sank and no one died. It was just,
how is that possible?
It was just a big delay. Basically, everyone's like, shit. It's like getting into a car accident where your cars are really fucked up, but they're not totaled, and no one got hurt. So, and it's very rare that this sort of accident would occur, especially in that position, because they just typically didn't turn left in front of another ship, you know? So, Violet and Arthur were probably like, dang, dog, that shit was crazy. That's probably the scariest thing that will ever happen to us at sea. Eventually, they would switch vessels, and eventually they would switch vessels and meet again. The next ship they would set sail on together actually left port on April 10th, 1912 for its maiden voyage. And if that date sounds familiar, it's because that ship was known as the RMS Titanic.
I was gonna say that! Same
jobs. They had the same jobs. Violet would be a stewardess and perform nursery when needed, because I'm pretty sure that's how you use that word. And Arthur was in the engine room of the Titanic. As we all know, the Titanic did not fare well on its first voyage. It would collide with an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April 14th. The amount of passengers and crew aboard the Titanic was just over 2,200-ish. They had enough lifeboats on board for 1,178 people.
So half the people would die.
Yeah. If they got into an accident, half the people were going to fucking die, basically. The ship sank rapidly, and only 705 individuals survived. Around 1,500 perished. 2 of the survivors, however, were Violet Jessup and Arthur John Priest, sailing together on the Titanic, not dying. They had both survived what is arguably the most famous shipwreck of all time. And their story does not end there. Now, most lists will only reference Violet Jessup, and they reference her as having the nickname, the, quote, unsinkable. That's because she has yet another incident in her future. So 2 years after the Titanic, something else would happen in the world that would make things a bit more dangerous on the open waters. World War I would begin. Arthur would be aboard the RMS Alcantara during World War I, and on Leap Day of 1916, so February 29th, 1916, the Alcantara would get into a battle with the German ship known as the Greif, Greif, which apparently translates to griffin, like the mythological figure. So I read it as grief almost the entire time I was reading this story, And then I found Greif, and I was like, oh, I should translate that. And I translated, I was like, that's a fucking sweet name for a boat.
Okay.
So they are engaged in this battle, just lobbing fucking cannonballs back and forth at each other, taking severe damage, and eventually additional ships would show up on the Alcantara's side and sink the Greif, but not before the damage to the Alcantara was beyond repair. So the captain ordered the crew to abandon ship, and due to several lifeboat falls, which is basically the guidelines that take down the lifeboats to the water, being damaged, multiple sailors were dumped into the water and had the lifeboats collapse on top of them. All the crew except for 68 unfortunate souls survived the battle, but the Alcantara would capsize and sink. So this boat, after being in this massive battle, flipped the fuck over and sank beneath the waves. Arthur would survive again.
Why would he ever get on another ship?
Because he's a stoker. It's his fucking job. This is his third incident and second shipwreck.
Wouldn't you imagine their bad luck and you'd never want to hire them on your ship? See, that's the thing.
I think other sailors at this point would be like, this dude is fucking bad luck. Arthur's next gig is the HMS Britannic, again during World War I. While walking aboard, he would recognize a familiar face. Violet Jessup was also boarding the ship, and upon spotting her, he would yell, "Violet, you son of a bitch!" And they would do that weird arm wrestle handshake thing where they showed off their massive biceps. Not really, but they're both on the ship. So they boarded, and away the ship went, until November 12th, 1916, when the Britannic would be rocked by a massive explosion at 8:12 a.m., It is still unknown whether it was a mine or a torpedo. However, it is heavily suspected it was a mine. One side of the ship felt the explosion far less than the other side, so that form of crew didn't take it seriously at first. They didn't actually go to their departments or their compartments to fix shit. And so it turns out that because of the slowness, 6 compartments would flood. The ship was able to take on 4 flooded compartments. When they realized it was 6, they knew that they were going to sink. In just over 30 minutes, the list, which is what they call a tilt on the open seas, of the ship was so severe that it was absolutely inoperable and they had to abandon ship.
Wow.
30 sailors would die, but 1,035 were saved, and among the survivors were Violet Jessup and Arthur John Priest.
Please tell me they got married or something.
No, they don't think they actually ever, fornicated. They must have known of each other because there's a short list of people that overlapped, but at this point, Violet gets her nickname. And as far as I can tell, the rest of her ships don't have incidents like this. So she survives 3. 1 that's an accident where no one gets hurt. 2 sinkings, okay? So Arthur's at 4 now. Arthur was not so lucky. In fact, that was his second sinking in 9 months.
What?
Because he had the other one that got hit by the mine. This is the one that got hit by the mine. The one before that had the ship battle. So he makes his way onto another boat, the HMHS Asturias. HMHS stands for His Majesty or Her Majesty's Hospital Ship. Sad to say, he wouldn't be on it very long. March 20th, 1917, which is only 5 months after the last sinking, the Asturias would be torpedoed by the German U-boat UC-66. The ship started to tilt right and began sinking from the ass first. The captain, or master as he's referred to in all the stories I can find, said, quote, "Fuck this." Side note, not an actual quote. He made for a piece of land nearby named Bolt Head, and while the ship was sinking ass first, this dude beached the fucking ship. He just drove it into the shallows because it's not going to fucking sink now, is it? They then dropped the lifeboats in the shallows and evacuated. At most, 35 of the crew died, but over 1,000 said to be on board survived, including a bunch of people who were being transported because they were already injured from the war.
Wow.
Among those survivors was Arthur John Priest,
That's
still a stoker, still working in the engine room when this fucking ship got torpedoed.
That's insane.
This dude worked in the engine rooms of all 5 incidents, including 4 sinkings, 3 of which were 13 months apart.
Please tell me he quit after this.
He never shows up on any of these lists. It's only her, okay? And so he would continue his service through the remainder of World War I without another sinking. He earned the nickname the Unsinkable Stoker, which is hard to find, but I was able to locate it. So it's do you look at that as bad luck? Or is it really good luck because he's always in bad situations, you know? It's so crazy that they overlap so often, but it was wartime for the last, few. So it makes sense that these ships were getting sunk, but,
yeah.
Clearly this guy, unless he's a magnet for torpedoes and mines, literally, Has nothing to do with the boat sinking unless he was like a double spy. Who the hell knows? I guess it wouldn't be a double spy. It would just be a spy. So, yeah, that shit's crazy. So, speaking of World War I, I've seen a, quote, creepy coincidence regarding this a few times. So the start of World War I has some weird stuff associated with it. One of the things I had heard about growing up and studying World War I in school, but another one I didn't realize, and they overlap, and they take place at the same time. So it's really mind-blowing for me to hear it and be like, oh shit, I never knew that piece of it. That's even creepier. So let me tell you a little bit about this. It's pretty well known that the inciting incident for World War I was the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So that sort of kicked everything off that would eventually steamroll or snowball, or however you want to put it, into what was known as World War I.
And then created that amazing band who wrote that one song.
He was resurrected like 90 years later. It was nuts. Take me out. So actually I tried to work in a This Fire reference, but I'm like, no, I don't remember any of the lyrics anymore.
I was going to say, I don't know the lyrics to that song.
For those of you who don't know the story of what happened, so on June 28th of 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie Chotek, were cruising down the street in their six foe, jocking the freaks, clocking the dough.
Is that why you were listening to that song?
I had it in my head and I had to listen to it.
God.
So while they were knowing nothing in life but to be legit, a group of men attempted to throw a grenade at their car. This is the first assassination attempt on their life. Some fucking dude just chucks a grenade at them. But like me, so often when I play Modern Warfare or Halo, they didn't aim it well and they mistimed the grenade. It wound up blowing up the car behind the Archduke's car. And he was super pissed about it, but they managed to escape. Now, the would-be assassins were super pissed because they failed. One of them was like, what the hell was that? And after some arguing, everyone calmed down, and among the ideas of how to get over their disappointment was to go crush a couple of Sandos. Like, what better thing to do? And that is exactly what Gavrilo Principe, I think I'm saying his name right, did. Now, it's thought he wasn't the one who threw the grenade, but he was part of this group, and he did go to a cafe to basically eat his feelings afterwards. And Franz and Sophie arrived at their destination. They screamed at some people for maybe being in on it. I think the famous line is like, this is how you welcome your guests with grenades. Like, he was fucking pissed. And then they decided after a while, after calming down, they should go to the hospital to check on the folks that had gotten blowed up. So they left. They got in their cars, and their drivers took off. But the drivers did not know that they wanted to go to the hospital. This is true. This is 100% true. The drivers saw them get in the car, and they thought, on to the next destination that has previously been established prior to the grenade tossing. So along the way, someone told the drivers, "Oi, you're going the wrong way," which is how they talk, which is not how they talk. So the drivers were like...
So much of this is like, this happened, but it didn't really happen.
The drivers are like, shit. So they stopped and started backing up to get turned around. But they had made it quite a bit of ways into the city before realizing their mistake. And while backing up, one of the cars stalled that was at the back. So they were basically all stuck until that car got moving, Meanwhile, Gavrilo looked out the window while he's crushing his Sando. He's molar deep into a cheese Sando. And what does he see?
Oh my God, stop saying Sando.
He sees Franz Ferdinand and Sophie sitting in a car right outside the window of the cafe he was at. This is 100% true. They just wound up breaking down in front of the shop that the would-be assassin was inside. Complete coincidence, fate giving him a second chance to murder someone and literally start World War I. So he was like, Ferda. And he walked outside right up to the car and he shot Franz Ferdinand and Sophie to death. And that is what triggered World War I.
Is that really?
It's 100% true.
Shut up.
I knew that the assassination failed and then the car stalled in front of the cafe one of the assassins was at. I had heard that in high school and thought, this is fucking nuts, no way, I love history. Even some of the most diligent researchers attempting to debunk this only offer alternate theories that mention it might not have been a sandwich he was eating because they don't know how often sandwiches were eaten in cafes in this particular region at the time. But that is still what happened. What I didn't realize is that the license plate of the car that Archduke Franz Ferdinand was in when he was assassinated had a weird omen attached to it. The license plate on it was AIII space 118. So that's what it looks like. The Archduke's assassination sets off World War I. World War I would end on Armistice Day, which is November 11th, 1918, which is recorded 11/11/18, or
wow.
I-118. If you write it down and just put slashes in it, it is the same thing, and the number that's at the front of it is A, as in armistice.
Oh my god!
So it's just super weird. Like, I just got goosebumps thinking about that, because it's just such a weird little detail.
What are the odds?
We watched The Adjustment Bureau, which, if you haven't seen, it's a fun movie. It's kind of happy. It's a little bit about fate, a little bit about religion and faith and stuff like that, but it's about how everyone has a plan, and there's certain things that you're set out to do, and that if people are given choice and free will and things like that, they fuck stuff up, you know? So these people out there with powers adjust you, you know? They nudge you. And if they miss you, they figure out another spot along your path, usually in the same day, where they can get you back on path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you threw the grenade too far? So it's like, well, he's crushing a fucking sando, just have the car stall there. It so seems like that to me. It always has. So that coincidence, I mean, I keep going back to war shit, is just bizarre. So here's a really happy one. Not really. Kind of, it just depends on how you look at it, I guess. Apparently this wasn't actually known to be in existence until 2009, when it was fully disclosed from the government that it existed within, but this event actually took place like 60 years before it was disclosed. A man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi was on a business trip on a sunny summer day. And in his own words, there is a very weird event that occurred, and here's what he says. It was a very clear, a really fine day, nothing unusual about it at all. I was in good spirits. As I was walking along, I heard the sound of a plane, just one. I looked up into the sky and saw a B-29, and it dropped 2 parachutes. I was looking up into the sky at them, and suddenly it was like a flash of magnesium, a great flash in the sky, and I was blown over.
Was that an atomic bomb?
As you may have guessed, the day that he was doing this was August 6, 1945, and the city the man was visiting was Hiroshima.
Oh my gosh.
He had arrived just in time to suffer the experience, the very unique experience of an atomic bomb going off in the city you're in. So, after witnessing this devastation on a scale that had never been seen before, he's evaluated. He has severe burns on his body, but he's still alive. Now, you can imagine, like, the healthcare workers in the city are trying to take care of people that have more severe injuries. And because he is burned and hurt, he is told, like, if you need something, there's not a lot we can do. We just suggest you go home. Side note, he did have radiation exposure / poisoning, but he did not know it at the time. He went home and began to recover from the ordeal. And while I'm not sure this is exactly how his recovery went, I imagine at this time he's telling friends and family about what he had experienced only a few days ago, because it's unheard of. It's unprecedented, you know? It's this thing that was unleashed upon the world that no one had even fathomed could exist except a handful of scientists.
Right.
And now it's being used in literal warfare. And what I do know about his recovery is that 3 days in, he suffers a setback. And unfortunately for Tsutomu, he lived in Nagasaki. And the setback is that the second atomic bomb was detonated on his home city while he was recovering there.
Oh, no.
And despite the devastation to his home city, Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived again. This man is a survivor of both atomic bomb blasts. It is insane to think someone could be that unlucky. Or if you look at it from a different perspective, lucky. He survived 2 fucking atomic bombs. Now, despite being double exposed to radiation, he lived to the age of 93.
Did he have to suffer any, like...
Oh, he had radiation sickness symptoms for the rest of his life. In fact, when he died at 93, it was of one of the many forms of cancer he had developed. So, I guess when you survive 2 atomic bombs, though, radiation's going to have a hard time killing you, too, because the dude lived for another 60 years. Mm-hmm. And once they declassified this and said, like, yeah, this dude actually survived both of these, like, we kept his identity secret because we weren't, like, giving that stuff out. He was going to, like, different places to talk about disarmament. Because he's like, this is a really awful thing that's been created by the human race. It would be great if we didn't use this shit anymore. Also, here's all the things I've experienced in my entire life as a result of surviving this bomb. So, it's just absolutely fucking crazy to think there's someone out there who survived both atomic bomb blasts in Japan. So, here's one about dodging 2 bullets. And not literally. But I'm going to wrap this up. So, take this one with a grain of salt, though, as this is reported by the person it supposedly happened to. So, it's unconfirmed. The news sources that have reported this have said it's unconfirmed. They can't confirm it because it's just, like, up to his word at this point.
Okay.
But there's a man named Martin de Jong who exists. He's a Dutch professional cyclist. So he sort of lives that jet-set lifestyle, traveling often to compete. I was looking at some of his finishes. He's been racing for about 20 years. It seems like he's been all over Europe and a lot of parts of Asia, including a first-place finish in the 4th stage of the Tour of Thailand in 2014.
Wow.
So not bad. So it doesn't seem like he makes a buttload of money doing this. Like, he's a professional, sure. It's his primary source of income. But he doesn't have, like, fuck you money. You know, he's not Lance Armstrong, so...
Oh, okay.
He does have the kind of money where he does not, I should say, have the kind of money where you just buy things and don't worry about the price. He has to comparison shop, same as the rest of us. And one of the things he has to do that for, he has to worry about footing the bill, is his travel. He has to pay for his own travel, which sucks, you know. He's traveling all over the world. Maybe it's a write-off, but I'm not sure about how taxes work in the Netherlands. I can't say. So apparently he even shops for cheaper flights to his destinations if he has like extra time to travel. He books in advance, and the closer it gets, if he can find a cheaper flight that's not completely booked out, he switches.
Okay.
So a lot of people do that. They take their shit to the airport, they wait to see if there's another flight on a competing airline or something like that, and if the flight's super cheap, they switch, they eat the change fee or whatever, and in the end, they save money. I was reading about one of the things that he did where he saved $400 doing exactly that.
Oh, what?
Because he's like, okay, cool. Like, as long as I leave early and I'm at the airport at that day, I can switch flights and I'll be okay. So, for instance, March 5th of 2014, he and multiple members of his cycling team were booked to travel for the Tour of Taiwan, which is different than the Tour of Thailand. I know because I asked Robin before this because I'm stupid.
Okay.
So they were booked on a flight, but they kept an eye on other flights to avoid a lengthy layover when they were flying. So eventually one became available, and they all made the switch. They all got off that flight, and you gotta wonder what kind of change fees they got hit with. But maybe he's like a frequent flyer, so it doesn't happen too often or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I can't say for sure.
Well, I mean, if you're traveling a bunch for different races or different events,
you've got to be racking up the miles.
Right.
So whether or not he saved money on this one is unknown. What is known, supposedly, is that he wound up switching off of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. That flight would disappear about 6 hours into its journey, never to be seen from again.
That's the most recent, that flight that disappeared recently?
Yeah, that's the Malaysia Airlines
crap.
flight that disappeared with 239 people aboard,
gosh.
who are all now presumed dead. In 2015 and 2016, debris would wash up in the Western Indian Ocean. People still have no idea what path the flight took.
But they don't
why
have
the
any
hell
bodies?
It crashed. They never recovered anything but some wreckage from the plane. So it's terribly sad, and you think that you'd be really shaken after you missed the flight that would have ended your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But you still have to travel. He has to do it for his job. I said he went to Tour of Thailand in 2014, and it was a good thing. He got first place in that 4th stage. Like, you can get picked up on a better team the better you do. So another instance of him traveling was when he booked to fly out of his home country. So he's leaving the Netherlands, and he's heading for Kuala Lumpur International Airport on July 17th of 2014. Kuala Lumpur International Airport is like the central hub of Malaysia. Mm-hmm. So you fly in there, then you get a connecting flight to wherever you need to go.
All right.
So, you figure 4 months after that previous flight went missing is pretty brave. So the flight time got closer and closer, and he winds up finding a cheaper flight, and he switches. He does it all the time, so no big deal, right? What are the odds something weird would happen again? So the flight he changed from departs from the Netherlands, and that is Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, which is shot down with a ground-to-air missile over Ukraine 6 hours into its journey.
There's no fucking way.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I'm sorry, but there would be record of his changing flights.
They're saying they can't find records of the flights that he had because he wound up not being on the boarding manifest.
But there has to be, like, digital records of the switch because he had to call them, right, and switch the flights.
Well, it's been interviewed with, like, a bunch of different, like, Netherlands news sources, UK news sources, and then, like, the US media picked up the story and brought it over here, but reported on their reporting, which, like, they can only confirm so much.
Oh, my goodness.
So you have to take that one with a grain of salt. It's some Final Destination shit right there if it's true. Although he doesn't claim to have had any vision of the plane's demise beforehand, he does state in the interview, like, it does terrify him to think about flying, like, ever since the first one happened.
Yeah.
And when the second one happened, it's pretty much, like, ruined every flying experience for him since then.
Oh, man.
So the last coincidence I want to end on is actually a personal one. And it's not mine. It's actually my mom's. I thought of this when I was like, going through these, like, what about, like, smaller ones that don't involve World War or a ton of death? So, like, I sincerely feel like a lot of times fate keeps putting something in your path, and it's kind of up to you to choose whether or not you're going to take that road, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of instances or stories that you hear from people where, like, they overlapped with someone before they realized who they were. So my dad was a Marine during Vietnam. I don't think he actually went to Vietnam, but he did go a bunch of different places, and it was a rough time. And when he came back from being deployed, when he got out of the Marines, things had changed quite a bit. So, his life was a lot different, and he was trying to settle back into civilian life. One of the things he was doing, because my dad is a huge movie buff, was going to see movies. So he went to see movies with some friends, and at the same time, my mom and her friends went to go see some movies. And this is before my dad and my mom ever met. And my mom tells a story, or she used to tell it a lot. Not as much since she got divorced, but...
Oh, my God, okay.
She used to tell me that the movie was super packed, and everyone was young and super obnoxious, and they were getting up to leave the theater afterwards, and as they were walking out, she noticed some guy who decided to hold the door for everyone to leave the theater. And she thought, I should be with someone like that. Because it was so polite.
That's
in
cute.
this sea of assholes, someone was doing the nice thing. And my dad was at that theater and remembers holding that door. It's totally 100% true.
That's so cool.
My dad's will be skeptical when she used to bring up the story, but I don't think it was me. I think it was a different thing. He's I remember holding the door for a room full of assholes, but I don't think it was the same theater. But my mom insisted for a long time, she knows it was him. Because she met him a little while later, and she's like, that's the fucking guy. So it's that's a coincidence right there that's on a small scale, but it's a really good example of how you can cross paths with someone, and your behavior is going to be your first impression.
Yeah.
It's not the first impression you bring to the formal meeting. It's whatever thing that you just wound up doing when you didn't realize someone was observing you. All those weird stories you hear about someone cutting someone off in traffic and giving them the finger because they're late for a job interview.
You mean La La Land?
And they get there, and then their interviewer is the person they cut off and gave the finger to.
Oh, gotcha.
I have no idea what your La La Land reference is.
Oh my God!
So.
Okay, so the beginning of La La Land,
where they're on the freeway.
Ryan
together?
Gosling's on the freeway, and he's not moving, and what's her name? The redhead, Emma Stone has to get past. She has to go to work, right? And he's being an asshole on the freeway, so she drives past him and flips him off, It's
that's fictional, obviously, but a lot of them
are... Oh, no, it's the opposite. I'm sorry, Ryan Gosling had to pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of them are based in reality. A lot of these weird things do happen, and you're I just can't believe that. Robin and I lived 4 miles apart from each other for a year without ever bumping into each other.
Did we?
We're also pretty sure we went to the same, I think it was Avengers or Dark Knight Rises. I forget which midnight showing it was, but I used to go to midnight shows alone because I had no one to hang out with and see movies out here. And she had just moved out here and was going to the same midnight show that I wound up overlapping with. So there's a bunch of different stories like that, which is why I find coincidences absolutely fascinating, because the grander of a scale they happen on, the better they're known, the more research they are, and sometimes they can be documented and confirmed, just like some of the ones I shared with you this episode. And I sincerely do hope you enjoyed it, but that, for me, is coincidences number 2.
Cool. Awesome.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Was pretty cool. I mean, there's so much that you're just what?
I really love coincidences that are actually documented, so it was really fun to dig through these, and as I was going through them, they're just so fucking cool. I need to make sure I haven't covered them before, so...
Nice.
Yeah, but that's just about everything I got. So if any of you have coincidence stories like this, maybe it's yours, a friend's, a family member's, parents, maybe, who knows, you can go ahead and send them to us if you'd like us to read them on Storytime. So you can email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us and fill out that form and send it to us that way. It doesn't have to be a coincidence story. You can also send us any type of homegrown horror, which is anything supernatural, spiritual, creepy, kooky, anything like that. True crime. Send them our way. We'd be happy to read them. And we record those episodes live, Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at youtube.com/Scaryish or twitch.tv/Scaryish podcast. The live episodes are super fun. We hope to see you there. If you've never been to one before, you should probably try it out. It's a really good time. So, Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. There are a few days left for the coupon on our Etsy shop. If you join for $1, you can have access to that code. It's great. You can buy the new pins. I just got a picture of the new glitter bun pins. They're so cute. So if you guys want to check that out, It's on our Instagram story today. It's really cute. I don't know. I'll post pictures when I get them in. But check that out. You can also go to ko-fi.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are one-time donations. All your donations go to help us keeping the podcast going, upgrading our studio setup, making sure we have cool stuff for you guys. Yeah.
Indeed. That's just about everything we have for episode 129. We hope you enjoyed it. So, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.